Alrighty, you ready to begin? So, welcome again to Sunday AliCon 2019. First panel of the day. So we have Writing Pony Stories. Today we have the wonderful TheSlorg and the wonderful Freggles, who have travelled from across Australia to be here to tell you awesome folks about writing. So we're just going to have a brief introduction from both panelists this morning. TheSlorg.
Hello everybody. Are we all awake? Because you're going to be. So my name's TheSlorg. I started out writing, about 2011. Started in fan fiction. 13-time Equestria Daily feature. I now work for Equestria Daily as well, and I was a pre-reader for a long time as well. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Freggles. I am a writer, and I got as a fan in 2016, started writing in 2017, and only really got noticed, as you could say, in 2018 onwards. Mostly known for my human in Equestria stuff, but that's trash, so let's just...
Come now. You're here? Alrighty. Thanks, guys. So, we'll start off with the first question. Why should people get into, like fan fiction in general? And, what do you think is important about, the whole fan fiction thing to you guys personally? And what do you, hope to accomplish from it?
Well, I think if fan fiction is kind of unique in that you literally have an entirely blank slate that you can just keep going with. It gives you full creativity over just the entire world. You can follow it strictly to the show, or you can just kind of open it up to alternate universes and crossovers and all this kind of cool stuff. And it's a really good, relaxing sort of thing to do. And yeah, it's a good way to improve your own writing as well. Basically, when I started off, I got rejected right off the bat, and I kept at it, and yeah, here I am.
Yeah, my first fiction was also rejected, so I know the feel. I haven't been a writer as long as you, but yeah, it's okay. We've all been there. So why should people get into fan fiction? I can't say that for certain. Whether you should or shouldn't is completely up to you. I just know that I enjoy what I write. As for what makes it, what's important about it, well, fan fiction offers more opportunities than the original show, whatever fandom you're part of, more opportunities than the original show might be able to cover. So for example, in pony fiction, I do a lot of interpersonal drama that might not be suitable or the show is willing to cover. And yeah, it allows you to pick different kinds of genre, a different age bracket, whatever you want. There's literally an audience for just about anything, no matter how degenerate.
It offers a different perspective of things, doesn't it? It creates, deeper layers, more meanings. It creates these, wide open spaces for you to explore. Kind of filling in the holes that the show leaves for you, doesn't it? All right, thanks, guys. So, what are some of your personal rules that you either follow or adhere to during your writing process? So when you're creating that fic, what other things that you make sure you do every single time?
Well, it used to be that I didn't follow the rules at all, which worked quite well actually, surprisingly. But I found that over time, it did become important to just get somebody else's opinion on it before you throw it out to the masses. Not necessarily because it might not be good, but you sort of owe it to your readers to give them the best that you've got. And it's likely not going to be your first draft that's going to be the best. So yeah, definitely get somebody to look over it first.
First of all, I got a lot of specifics down for this. So, for example, no paragraphs above 6 lines, because otherwise that's just a wall of text that your reader might be skimming over time and time again, accidentally reading over the same lines. That's just something specific. You need to say as much as possible in as few words as possible, because being quick, snappy, everything, that is far more effective than going on for line after line about this simple little thing. You've got to make your prose snappy, that makes it more attentive. I might not be answering the question correctly.
No, short attention span, I get it. Like, readers just want to be able to know what they need to know and then just, get that out of the way.
Yeah. Write comfy and write while inspired. So just make sure that your list is entirely clear for the day. Make sure all your little comforts are tucked neatly away. You've fed yourself, you've got yourself nice and warm and cozy and everything. And just make sure that nothing's going to bother you. If you're that kind of person who just wants to write as much as you can at once. Don't betray established characters. That's my personal rule. Don't have a character speak like they don't speak in the show. Don't have a character act like they wouldn't act. Maybe not necessarily by show standards, but by their own internal logic as described in the show. Say, for example, Twilight. She is a very orderly, very regimented kind of person, but you wouldn't see her acting as fun-crazed as Pinkie Pie would. I mean, sure, she has her manic tendencies, but she's not nearly as manic as that thing.
Yeah, you guys have your own perceptions over the characters, and when writers decide to try to jump in on that, it kind of feels like they're invading a space that they're not really, ad-lib to kind of throw their hat into. So it works, like you're saying, it works really well to just kind of, accompany those traits and not try to fight them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll lead into something that I wanted to get into later about what characters you want to choose for a certain thing. Another thing, everyone has history. So in my stories, I try to make the world feel as fleshed out as possible by I don't mean to usurp the storyline by having a side character play an important role in it, but it just adds to the feeling of a world if even minor characters have some impact on the main characters or have some role within the story itself, besides just being a NPC, someone who dispenses something to the character, or they have a meaningful comment, let's say, or everyone has history. Everyone has past events that influence their current events. I'm a very character-driven writer.
Yeah, so I get what you're saying there, I'm pretty sure that J.K. Rowling even openly stated that all of her characters have family trees, and that those relatives of those characters actually have their own backstories as well, and that's influenced how her characters in the Harry Potter franchise has actually acted and been portrayed, because it's created a real solid foundation that she'll always adhere to. See you later. Alright, so next up, what will instantly turn you off reading any kind of fan fiction? So what will just destroy the experience for you?
Bad grammar, for one. A little bit of bad grammar is not bad, but if it's just consistently, unedited, that will turn me off pretty quickly, especially as a pre-reader. But the other thing is, as you mentioned, out of character portrayals of well-established characters. Unless you're in an alternate universe, please keep them to the way that the show basically has shown them. And those are my top two pet peeves.
And you can generally tell bad grammar from a personal preference. Personal preferences are more consistent. whereas background is just haphazard, all over the place. It can't be easily read, I'd say. My personal pet peeves, repetition without purpose. So you hear just a lack of synonyms, but also then a overuse of synonyms. So keep referring to the door, the doorway, the door, the door, the door, the door, the door. It gets tiring after a while. You got to make sure that when you go back through, you're not overusing a particular word, a particular phrase, a particular term, phrase, whatever you want to call it. Don't use it too much, and use it only if you can't use anything else.
Yeah, like it's your story, and I feel like a lot of people are afraid once they've already written something to not, want to go back and destroy something that they've spent so much work on. But the beauty behind fan fiction, or the beauty behind writing in general, is just that whole versatility behind it, and the fact that you can completely change everything that you've just said before and make it so much more nicer even after you've wrote it first time.
Redundant information as well. So if someone asks a question and someone acts surprised at the question, and the action has them say surprised at the question, what else are you going to be surprised at? There's only one thing that you could be surprised at, that's the question. So it's just, I'm getting very nitpicky here, maybe. Not as general. What?
A question?
Yeah.
Redundancy?
Yeah.
What's that?
Redundant. So don't do that. Don't do that to me. Caused as well. So cause the word. So that thing caused them to do this. That's a bit higher up there on the what else you've got to look out for, but it also is just a sign of what you're treating the reader as someone who doesn't understand what's happening. Why else would they? Overuse of said as well, that also kind of ties into repetition. The romanticization of sadness in some fictions. So instead of offering a message, it's sad and that's beautiful and it's a metaphor for something. No, don't go there, please. It's just, you got to have a message behind it, otherwise it's just there to win an Oscar.
Okay, so editing. This is something that I feel like a lot of people struggle to find or struggle to actually know how to operate properly. So how do you find an editor? And what kind of processes do you need to take to make sure that your fic is polished and ready to go?
Well, fanfiction.net, which is where the vast majority of these stories will be found, actually has resources available. There's groups of editors willing to have a look at your stories, get them up to tip-top shape, as well as Equestria Daily also has writing tips hidden within the menus. So yeah, good luck finding those, unfortunately.
The editor's omnibus, is that still a thing?
Yeah, it is. I haven't looked at it in a while, shame on me. But yeah, it's still up there. As far as making sure my own stories are in their best shape, I'll often just leave them for a while. And in fact, anybody that's been following my stories lately knows that I've been waiting a long time to get back to them. But I'll just leave them for a while and just be like, all right. Because if you're writing a story, you've got it in your head, and you just over and over, every day, every couple of hours, you're writing something out, and it's in your head. But when you're looking at it, you're not looking at it as somebody from an outside perspective. So it's really important to just give it that break, go listen to some music, get outside, whatever you got to do. Come back to it maybe a week later, and you'll see it in a completely different light as a reader just getting into the story. And if you're not reading it smoothly, then you can all of a sudden say, uh-oh, I went wrong somewhere, let's fix this up. So that's my little
Yeah.
As for me, I was lucky in that I found my first editor who was actually a pretty decent one and not the toxic kind, because there are different kinds of editors. Some who want to make the story their own, not respect the original author's intent. You got to watch out for them. And I found out the hard way about how difficult it is to tell when you're being when you're talking with someone who wants to turn it into their story, not yours, or wants to make you doubt everything about everything you know. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to find my first editor on Film Fiction using one of the resources there, which was a editor list where they
search for editors.
Yeah, I think so, something like that. But yeah, an editor is a pre-reader and a proofreader combined. Pre-reader is someone who just tells you the feel of the story. Proofreader is the person who actually edits the goes through and sees the grammar errors.
Technical stuff.
Yeah. But they're also an ideas person, who is someone you can bounce ideas off and get their opinion on this, and how can I make it better? How can I engage the reader more? How can I present this theme? How can I present the idea of the story itself in a more effective, more engaging light? And again, that's fortunate that my first editor was like that. Unfortunately, he's become a bit lazy of late. I met him in person when I went to the States, actually.
Wait, am I your editor?
No.
Oh, okay.
Were you in the States? Oh, okay. No, sorry.
Secret editor.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, met him in person in the States. Good guy, just a bit on the lazy side. Anyway, yeah,
but that's alright, because often the time editors do it for free, and they do it, because they either love your writing and that sort of stuff, and you can't feel too mad at them if they go, kind of don't want to really do that anymore, because in turn they are really, doing you a service.
Yes, yeah.
It's a fantastic job, and any editor should be giving themselves a pat on the back because they're fabulous.
They should be used for most every story as a second opinion, especially anything larger than 5,000 words or some vague number like that. Longer stories tend to be more complex. Not to say that short stories can't be complex, but there's more stuff that you kind of need to keep track of in a longer story. Personally, I tend to edit as I write, so partly because there's less work for my editor buddy to do. Secondly, because I'm a perfectionist, and because I can't let bad grammar, bad writing slide the first time. I need to get it down the first time right. Correct the first time. Everything has to be good the first time. It needs to be right the first time. Yeah.
We have some very interesting perspectives here from both authors here, which is fantastic.
Do whatever. Get it right.
Yes.
All right. Are those your demons?
All right. So, how do you build your skills as a writer personally? How do you kind of get those, get yourselves proficient and organized? What's your kind of writing exercises or?
For one, you have to write. If you're not writing, you're not improving. And if nobody's looking at it, you don't know whether you're stuck in the same spot or whether you're improving or not. So yeah, just keep at it, just do it. Also, one thing that I've learned along the way is if you write something and you go back to it and you say, wow, where did this come from? And you feel it's not up to snuff. Don't delete it, don't throw it away, because there could be some sort of hidden gem in there for later on. It might not be in the same story you're writing, but maybe in the future you could get some sort of inspiration out of it. Or you could look at it and it could be so awful that you're inspired to just never do that again. So yeah, do not throw anything away, keep a hold of it. It's actually kind of cool to go back, I've been writing again since 2011, and I'll go back to my original stories to this day, and I'll sneak into the story on FemFiction and just edit. But yeah, I look at those original stories back then, and I say, wow, you know, if I hadn't started doing this, I would not be anywhere near as good as I am today, which is kind of a cool feeling because I used to write quite a lot back in high school, and my teachers would always say, "You're so creative, where do you come up with this?" That's because I was putting weird answers on my test and whatnot, but from that, they said, never stop, you know, you might be a goofball, but never stop doing that. Well, I stopped. And it wasn't until 2011 I picked it back up again, and wow, what a ride it's been.
Yeah, you can be not happy with what you wrote, but you can be happy that you wrote it. Before I entered the fandom, I was trying my hand at a full-blown novel of I think 150,000 words, and looking back at it, it is just don't you dare bring it's Vietnam flashbacks all over again.
I'm gonna read it.
No.
In the panel.
Live.
Yeah, it was something about a robot dinosaur that can feel emotions. The first and just a kind of
Okay, I'm definitely reading it.
no. It had ham-fisted political messages and everything. No, you
Sorry,
don't.
wrote down.
Anyway. I am not happy that I wrote it. Sorry, I'm not happy of what I wrote, but I am happy that I wrote because it taught me a lot about how to handle dialogue, character moments, and yeah, writing in general is what improves your writing skill, not necessarily just from a textbook. I mean, you can have your textbook answers, but they're not going to teach you how to be creative. They're not going to teach you how to pace your dialogue. They're not going to be teaching you how to set the scene or anything.
It's like any creative arts in that perspective, isn't it?
Sometimes you're good from the start. You're just naturally talented, as a lot of the ponies tend to be. But yeah, sometimes you're naturally talented, and good for you. But for a lot of us, it takes time to get to where most professional writers and self-avowed professional writers tend to be. You need to acknowledge your strengths and weaknesses and learn what you can from those you believe who do X or Y better than you. So if you find someone that you admire the writing of, find out why you like their writing and try and learn what you can from that. Figure out why they appeal to you, and from them, how you can appeal to others.
But it's a fantastic experience, isn't it?
It is.
When you get those paragraphs that you just were so proud over, and you can just look back at that and go, wow, I wrote that. And that's, you know, I feel like the point at which you get to where it makes, you know, all of the work that you've done totally worth it.
That actually ties into one other part of a way to improve yourself is, you know, first is write, two is read.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can be so stuck into your own story that you lose the fun of reading. So put it down for a little bit. If you get stuck, if you hit a roadblock, just set it down and just read something. And you'll be amazed at how quickly the inspiration comes back.
Yeah, it's so easy to just switch in on and off inspiration. You know, music does it, reading does it. I could literally be reading a school report and go, oh, I'm feeling it right now.
I'm so inspired right now. Oh, I'm gonna write a story right here.
Yeah, do it. All right. So, before you write that story, I'm gonna ask, are there any resources that you guys have used that help you practice writing, and you know, what kind of resources are they?
Trolls are a good one. It's for me, if I get a story that gets a little troll comment, and for those who don't know, those are the mean people. I think it's great. I'm like, wow, you know, this person was really upset, but they left a comment, which is pretty cool. And that just inspires me to be like, you know what? Let's get them to actually like this story. That's my own personal challenge. Like if somebody like just puts kind of a nasty comment, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna change your mind. I'm gonna do it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There's that. Again, getting other people to look at your stuff. Music, like we just discussed. Getting out there, getting inspiration, going for a walk. It's amazing how you can just kind of get out there and be like, oh yeah, this is what trees look like. I'm gonna write about that, and you just start writing, and it just improves everything in general. So, sunlight, that's another good one.
Yeah, just you sit there and just look at something and just try to pick out every single tiny detail from it and paint it in the most colourful light that you can imaginable, even if it's just completely wasted. That's still writing that's gone to good use, helping you get inspired.
Living life and getting those experiences.
Yeah.
Resources specifically, I don't think there's anything better than the pencil or keyboard that you're currently using. But for what's helped me learn how to create a story, for story structure, basically any number of video essays about a particular film on YouTube or anything of the like. It helps you understand how a good story is something that you can see in your head. That's my personal philosophy, as well as maybe some other little nuances here and there. But generally, you need to see the story in order for it to be really hitting home for you. And films do that great. Films do visual stuff, of course, extremely well. So it pays to learn from what they have to offer. That is, anyone who analyzes them and can tell you how something works, how doesn't it work. That is an effective learning tool for how to approach the story that you're trying to write. So for example, the Dark Knight by Christopher Nolan, that's been done to death, analysed to death, but it is done so for a reason. That's because it's actually good. It's a damn good film, not just as a superhero film, but just as a crime thriller drama. But yeah, learn what you can from there. That's my personal take, video essays. But yeah, as for developing your writing style and how to write in general, pencil, keyboard, get a Word document up, get a text document up, and just hammer away. I don't have any exercises my personal self. I just, I'm one of those people who has an idea, I go for it. I don't need any warm-up. I just need to make sure I get the first paragraph down and I've set the tone. And from there I can work from it.
Awesome. Yeah. So, on that note, creative processes. So, how do you think up a character? How do you know how do you choose your setting? How do you choose maybe what characters you use in your stories?
Oftentimes it just comes from a cool idea. So, you might be listening to music, doing whatever your inspirational thing is. Watching a movie, whatever, and all of a sudden you get this idea and say, wow, this would be cool. And then it just kind of expands on that. It's like, okay, and then what if this happened? And then what if that character did that? And those two, and then they kiss? Whoa, But,
of course we'd be excited by the romance.
But, it has to, but at the same time, a story has to build from it. So, don't be surprised if a lot of those cool ideas don't turn into good stories. And if that's the case, don't worry about it. Maybe you can sneak that idea into another story later on down the road. But don't build a story around that particular idea. But when it does work, go for it. There's been some amazing stories that have started from just one random idea, and it just explodes from there. So I know there's a couple of really top-tier fandom writers who have done just that. They just started with one tiny little idea, and they said, because I've spoken to them, and they said, I just went with this idea, and it just kept growing. And I just kept writing, and I just kept writing, and the story grew, and it became this ultra mega level hit. So, yeah, do it that way.
Yeah. On the note, let's do a plug. I recently read TheSlorg's story called Allure, and yeah, well, you told me to, so I'm a student. I do homework. That's my business. Anyway, yes, and although the writing style isn't entirely up to my standard, I really do like the idea of a magical trap that actually turns out to be not really a trap. It's the to summarize, if I may. Yeah, to summarize, Rarity discovers a magical book that offers her everlasting beauty for a price. A year of beauty, a year for extended youthful beauty in exchange for a year of her own life. And may I spoil the end? In the end, Rarity decides to burn the pages that were the problem for her, and the problem is that she still wants to cast the spell, which, when Twilight explains it, by burning the pages, the spell is broken, but she still wants to cast it, and that's because it wasn't actually the spell that was the problem, it was Rarity herself. She is now sure that, yes, she's just, it's not the magic, it was the, let's say, the demons inside of her that were enticing her to act out on her own base impulses. Yeah. So, I forget where I was going with this. It was just a neat idea. And I don't think it has. Yeah, I don't think it has been done before. That, to my knowledge, I'm not a massive reader on fanfiction. I started dropping off of that scene when I started writing myself. That's unfortunately the curse of a writer. When you write, you can't read, and to build on top of that, you have a life as well. You need to go to work, you need to go to school, that sort of thing. Anyway, yeah, as for my creative process, generally in no particular order, what's a neat idea? Has it been done before? Does it have a path you'd expect it to follow? So, is it tropical? Tropical? Tropical. Yeah. Let's go with, yeah. Is it tropical? Is it set in Hawaii? And if it has been done before, and if it has a path you'd expect to follow, how can I steer it down an unexpected, but still just as welcome path? What's a neat little twist that you can do it? That isn't a M. Night Shyamalan kind of twist where, oh no, there aren't aliens, but there are aliens. What a twist! Yeah. So how can I steer it down in a direction that is unexpected, but altogether it makes sense within the fiction itself? Who best, as for the characters you want to choose, who best fits the archetypes that I want to use? So of course you have the main six who are your most obvious contenders, but then that's why I go into, can this be done with a more obscure character when I'm talking about fanfiction? Can this be done with a more obscure character? Is there anyone who is a blank slate or who has shown... Pardon me. Is there anyone who is known for a certain little quirk that the fandom has attached to them? Because we love our blank slates.
Yeah, I feel like with that whole thing you're going off there, you know, with the story that you were referring to, you know, the characters find themselves, you know. Rarity, obviously, you know, that's a great thing to build around vanity. You can talk about hard work and good old Big Mac over here. Thanks for coming. And you can talk, you know, there's a character for every kind of characterization that you're going for. And if there isn't, then you can make them. Blank slate.
Yeah, the reason why I ask if there's a more obscure character, a lesser known character that I can work with is because I want to because I'm working with a fandom, I want to flesh out the world of the universe just that little bit more. It helps add diversity to not only the fiction that you're reading, but the world itself. So you inspire other people's headcanons, let's say. What locations would make the most sense? Is there an image in particular that I want the reader to see? Is there, like, again, this ties into good fiction is a story that can be seen in your head. Is there a particular image that I want the reader, that I can see in my head, that I want them to see in theirs? Still image, a high moment of tension, whatever you want. Whose perspective should it be from? Who has the most to learn from the story that you're telling? Which character has the most to learn? And do I want this to feel like an episode, or do I want it to feel like a fable? Like, no, that's the wrong way of putting it. Basically just first person versus third person, past tense versus present tense. Each have their disadvantages that I really don't want to get into right now because I feel like I'm talking too long.
Well, no, these are fantastic things to include in this.
Yeah, we have to have the audience in here somewhere.
It's very niche. It's very like there's a lot of different things that come into play with it. So next we're going to go on to like what kind of themes do you like to incorporate? Do you think it's important to put like a moral to the story?
Yes. I have a couple of very personal themes in some of my stories. You could almost call them true stories, but I won't get into that right now. But again, as Freggles was saying earlier, basically, I've written, it's funny, I've written comedies and sad stories, which is a very weird kind of one end of the spectrum than the other. But in my sad stories, there's a reason for it. I'm not writing just to make people sad. There's a moral, there's a deeper meaning behind all these stories. And throughout my time in the fandom, some of you may have heard me ask Nicole Oliver and AC Reyes Best and them what that wow moment was for them. And that's because I've had my own personal wow moments where here we are sitting in our homes and just, typing away on a laptop or a home PC. And we're just doing our thing, we're living our lives, and we're writing about these characters that we know and love. And then all of a sudden someone comes up to you and says, man, I got through finals by reading your story. I was such a nervous wreck. I was terrible all over the place. But man, this was just my thing to just calm me down. And little things like that just makes it all worthwhile. And you can cover such a wide variety of things. You can have topics of bullying, all these things that are very real and very personal to people in real life. And when they read about it, and they read about these heroes overcoming these things, it's just a beautiful thing, and I like to be able to give that back to the person who's reading my stories.
I'm going to have to agree with you, but I'm also going to have to disagree with you.
Do it.
Yes. Tension up here. It's Hermia. Whatever. I disagree. I agree that yes, you can have a theme in the story if you want. Because writing can also just be fun. It can be for personal enjoyment, for the enjoyment of others. It can skip a moral and just be all about let's say a cuddle fic. It's just two characters. Let's say Applejack and Rainbow Dash, because best ship. Applejack and Rainbow Dash just having a little cuddle session. Doesn't have to be having moral behind it, just needs to make the reader feel good. And that's all if that's all you want it to be, that's all it has to be. And that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly a reasonable fiction to do. But yeah,
I guess you could say that it's just emotion on paper, so to speak.
yes.
And if you've made somebody feel something, then you've done your job.
Exactly.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. As for the themes that I tend to go for, again, I'm more of a character person. I do a bit more drama than anything. And I tend to focus on the theme of history, that is personal history, as well as history in general. How it matters, how it doesn't, how it affects the past and how it affects the present, for better and for worse, because it can go both ways. I also cover family and its effect on our lives, coming in a certain sense from personal experience. Love and how simple and complex it is. So there is often a duality. It is very simple on the surface, complex underneath, but also again very simple, and it goes on and on and on. And anyone who has been in a very tense situation, I don't think I should go into specifics there. The lengths a person will go to defend something, be it ideals, other people, anything. How do you incorporate it? You make the central focus of the story around it. You make the conflict that every character is facing to center around the conflict itself. Otherwise, it's just something that's there on the wayside and just not very integral to the plot. Why have you included it if it's not the main focus?
And I feel like it's such a fantastic thing to be able to, see your struggles and being able to project them onto paper and being able to have kind of a place to talk about these kinds of things, to be able to have, an open atmosphere, because, as you may know, people can look at your story and go, just from the page, they can just see what it is and then immediately be drawn to it, immediately go, oh, no, that's just not for me. And that's totally fine, because, different things will appeal to different people and different experiences will relate to different people too. All right, so I reckon we're going to go around the audience for a bit, if there's any questions before we start to wrap up. So if you have any questions, yeah, just over here. So what was your favourite fan fiction that wasn't actually written by you?
That's actually also on the questions, the official questions.
There you go. Good question.
See, this is a hard one because I've read most of them. But if there's one that really stands out, I would say it's the Keepers of Discord. That one, I avoided it for years because it was in the top lists, and I read a few other stories that were in the top lists, and it just wasn't my thing. Some of them just kind of droned on, and I get the appeal, but it just wasn't my thing. But wow, the Keepers of Discord, if there's one thing that you guys read that isn't mine or his, when you go home, please give that one a read. Very good.
Basically, I'd have to recommend, if we're going by just general recommendations, I have something what I call the bus test, which is when I'm heading to university, I have a fiction on my phone, and the premise seemed moderately interesting. So I have it on my phone. I read it. About 20 minutes later, if I get off the bus and I haven't finished it and I still want to read it when I get back, it's on the potential to be in my library. I'll like it, and only when I finished it do I favourite it. And everything on here has generally passed, everything in my fanfiction library has generally passed the bus test, but the one that stands out the most, the one that keeps coming to mind right now, I wanted to say Sundowner Season, but now you've also reminded me of Keepers of Discord. Damn you. I think
Sundown Season, what's that about?
I don't. Sorry, Sundown Season. It's basically Applejack going on a personal venture all the way up north not Applejack. Rarity going on a personal venture all the way up north to inform Applejack's grandfather that Applejack has recently passed away. And it's basically her dealing with her own personal grief and coming to terms with the fact that someone she has loved and someone that is close to someone else has passed away, and she still hasn't exactly moved on from it, even as she's moving away for a bit to go on a very
Personal journey, acceptance.
Yes, yeah.
All right, fantastic. Do you have any more questions?
I've got one.
You've got a question.
Yeah. How many of y'all have written a story? How many of you didn't like it?
Let's be honest. Fantastic.
All right.
Even if it's just, 100 words, just a little 100-word short idea or concept, that's still, one step on the road to really putting your ideas out there and being able to have a great kind of springboard into being able to project, who you are, what you like, and what kind of things you have to say. So, thanks guys, and thanks to our lovely panelists for going through all of those questions through the hour, and I hope to see you guys around the con. Thank you.
Anyway, come to DropCon.